For something that India didn't even start, we've spent a week witnessing the most spectacular display of hypocrisy and condescension from the Western media, commentariat, and the columnist and think tank brigade. After Justin Trudeau triggered the face-off in Canadian Parliament earlier this week by naming India in the assassination of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar, there was a sudden bustle in the Western press. The Washington Post fired the first shot, describing Nijjar as a Sikh activist. Take a look at this. I can only imagine how Sikh activists feel about a once credible newspaper describing a man against whom the Interpol issued a red corner notice in 2020, designating him an individual terrorist under India's Unlawful Activities Prevention Act as a Sikh activist. Well, where there is Washington Post, there must be New York Times not far behind, can there? But they couldn't do much better, so they settled for describing Nijjar as a Sikh leader in their headline strap. Take a look at how the New York Times described Hardeep Singh Nijjar as a Sikh leader. Think about this for a moment, viewer. Think of how Sikhs around the world feel about a man who was mastermind in the 2007 Ludhiana blast case, the murder of Rashtriya Singh Sangat leader Rulda Singh in 2009, the Satyanarayan temple explosion in Patiala in 2010, the assassination of a godman Pyara Singh Bhaniara, among other things, as a Sikh leader. That's the word for Nijjar, accused of all those things by the New York Times. But if the Washington Post and NYT thought they were winning the race to soften a terrorist image, they were swatted aside by that famous past master in such matters, the Financial Times, who touchingly described Nijjar with these beautiful, elegant words, viewer. So beautiful. 45-year-old plumber, remembered as a tireless campaigner, fatherly figure who would lay out chairs for worshippers at the Gurdwara, scrub the kitchen with his own hands. My heart is breaking, Financial Times, just breaking. But who are Washington Post and Financial Times, New York Times in front of the true guru of a kind of racism so entrenched, you can barely see it. That's the beauty of it. Take this example, for instance, of The Economist casually and with zero sense of irony describing the Indian subcontinent as a messy region, presumably in comparison to the neat and orderly West in this instance. Clearly, someone at The Economist realized how this sounded and edited out the word messy. So if you look at these two pictures, messy exists in one and then it's promptly removed right after. But none of these newspapers could hold a candle to the levels of condescending gyan India has been receiving over the last 72 hours from the think tank / international relations / geopolitics columnist brigade, each one trying to outdo the other in hilariously lopsided commentary on a situation that wasn't even triggered by India. Which is why in the last 72 hours, social media has been erupting, positively erupting, with columnists wondering how India will manage if Trudeau's allegations are proven true. In comes a random BBC columnist to talk of how the West, a part of the world that literally invented the art of extrajudicial killings on foreign soil, have condemned countries like Russia, Iran and Saudi Arabia. Zero sense of history, zero sense of irony. They don't even name countries like the United States, Israel and others. A kind of geopolitical racism that just flows like so many little rivers. It's actually amazing. It's an art form, and I actually say salam to the Western press for the easy manner in which they let this racism and this condescension flow. Western media, terror apologists and these gentle racists have been cheerleaders of a far more structured condescension of an India that is clearly rising. Which is why you'll see a wholly Western, largely white commentariat talking shop about how India shouldn't be pushing its luck, how India cancelling visa applications isn't diplomatic etiquette, why this doesn't suit India's agenda, how India's posture indicates guilt, even how the Khalistan issue is actually India's fault. In their urgency to prove a point, however small or big it may be, Trudeau, his surround sound warriors and the Western press fail to acknowledge a reality that, viewer, you and I both know has nothing to do with chest-thumping nationalism. This is a country, or this has become a country, that that is far more self-assured than it was perhaps in the 1980s when Trudeau's father tried something similar with India. India is far more sure-footed in international relations now than it has perhaps ever been before. Trudeau may learn it the hard way, but so will anyone too lazy to take the time and make their peace with a new India.